So today we'll get started by doing, as Lisa said, we're doing practice test 72 game 1. Does everybody here have Law Hub? I know Charity, Sabrina, and Josh do, because they've been here before. Patty and James, this is your guys' first time in my classes, right?
Yeah. Well, I was only doing the other one, so I was gonna sign off on this one.
Okay, well, all good. You're good to go.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's my
Bye.
first time.
What'd you say, James? Sorry.
It is my first time. Hello, everyone.
Sounds good. Well, the way this kind of works is we're going to go through a specific game, and any questions you have or anything like you're concerned with, please let me know. Basically, the game we're going to go over is practice test 72 game 1. And so, do you have Law Hub, James? All right, how's everybody doing on the setup? Oh, James, you might need to go through it, but how's Sabrina, Charity, Josh, Rachel, how you get done?
I honestly don't know how to graph this.
Fair. Well, let's go through it. Let's kind of go through it then, and that way we can kind of see how it works. So, when I diagram these more complicated games, I like to look at the first question and see if it's like one of those grab rule question, basically, where it's asking us which of the following could be an accurate list of segments, because it kind of shows us which way they want us to think about this game, right? So when I look at the stimulus, it says there are five reports, right? 2 of general interest, I and N, and 3 of local interest, sports, traffic, and weather. So I like to put those up here by saying, okay, the general interest ones are international and national, I and N, and the local interest ones are S, sports, traffic, weather, ST. I like to put those up my top left, my first diagram, to really signify kind of what I'm putting into this little table here to really show what steps we taken, and like, so I keep it straight about where I'm putting in each place, right? Does everybody kind of understand why I put these up here and how I got these pieces up here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So start with that up there, right? Next, I see there's 2 different. I see in rule 1 there are exactly 2 segments. This game's a little interesting because most games have how you set it up in the actual stimulus and not necessarily in the rules. But this first rule they're going over says there are exactly 2 segments. The first segment containing 3 reports, and the second segment containing 2. So the way I set this up initially, I was going to do, so I have the first segment up here. So 1 up here. You also write, I shortened segment to SEG to save time. Let's write SEG up here. So these signify the different segments, right? So you have segment 1 and segment 2. In segment 1, we have 3 pieces, right? 3 reports that fits in segment 1. And we have 2 in segment 2, right? 4 and 5. If we understand how we got this, I guess, diagram in this table. James, how are you feeling?
I'm gonna catch on.
No, you're good. Is there anything that feel like, do you see why we set it up this way?
No.
Okay. So yeah, so basically the game tells us that there's 2 segments, right? 1 and 2. And segment 1 has 3 parts and they're in a certain order. And segment 2 has 2 parts and they're in a separate order. So to keep the order into different pieces, I do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You also do 1 and 2 here, but then it gets kind of confusing when it comes to writing out which the options are. So I just do 4 and 5 to make it more obvious that it's under 2, right? Okay. So then rule 2 says that the longest reports are first, and shorter reports follow the longest reports. So I just do it goes long to short, right? Just kind of remember that. Rule 1 is just 1 equals 3 segments, 2 equals 2 segments. Just you don't necessarily have to write that in there, but it really helps me. It just remember, make sure I keep my rules in order. And this is a very heavy rule-based game because of how many rules there are. So next, we see that Rule 3 says within each segment, reports are ordered by length. Or sorry, we see each segment contains at least one report of local interest. So here I know that each segment, so within both 1 and 2, there's going to be either a sports, traffic, or weather in each segment, right? So that means basically what this is saying is in segment 2, I can have national, international, right? So I have to have national, or international, or international, and national. Because I can't have them both be in here. Or I can have the international and national here. However, basically this rule is really eliminating the national international section of this side. Next, rule 4 is stating that national is the longest program. Is always the longest of the 5 reports. So because of this, we know that whether national is in or N is in segment 1 or segment 2, it's going to be either in spot 1 or spot 4. No matter either of the outlays, because it's always going to be first in the segment that it is in. So do we all see why that national is going to be in section 1 or section 4? Is there any confusion as to why N is in 1 or 4?
Yes, I'm kind of stuck on that.
Okay, yeah.
I'm writing the rules as I go. I just don't know how to write what you just said.
So
it has.
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, so I thought you were asking us why it has to be in 1 and 4.
If you want to explain it, you explain it, then I'll jump in.
It's, I understood the rule is N is always the longest of the 5 reports in either segment. So N has to be first either in segment 1, or if it's produced in the second segment, it has to be in 4. That's how I understood that to be.
That's basically. So Serena, what this means is that because we know rule 2 says it goes longest to the shortest.
Oh, okay, yeah, I just, yeah, I
Because
get it.
rule 2 has, because rule 2 has the longest to shortest, and we know N is the longest of all the segments, or N is the longest of all reports. We know that if N is in segment 1, it has to be in spot 1. And we know if N's in segment 2, it has to be in spot 4. Because it has to be first in either segment that it's in. So let's move on to rule 5, which is basically that sports is the shortest of the 5 reports. So then we know, because like similar reasoning to the last one, that sports is either spot 3 or spot 5. Do we see why that is? Is there any, and that's better ask, is there any confusion as to why that is? Charity, how's it going?
Oh, I got it. I got mine lined up. I got it.
Perfect. And then rule 6 says I before W if they're the same segment. So we know I is longer than W, right? So we know if we have I and W in section 2, it has to go I, then W. And if we know if we have both I and W in segment 1, we have to have I, then W. So W can't be before I in the same segment. There's not many deductions that we made from this. However, as we move on, we'll see that there are some. Does that last rule make sense to everybody? Okay. Are there any questions about this initial setup? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go to the first question. The first question reads, which one of the following could be an accurate matching of reports to their segments with the reports listed in order from earliest to latest? So this is what I was talking about in the last game where I saw, okay, the first segment has 3 things, the second segment has 2 things. So I kind of use that to set up my diagram in this combo game. So I'm gonna give you all a couple minutes to kind of figure out the answer to this first one, and then I'll jump in after I give you all a couple minutes. So we'll come back at the 25 mark. All right, I know it's a little earlier, but how are y'all feeling about this question?
Which question? I'm sorry, we're on number 2 now, right?
We're number 1. No, we just started.
We're still on number 1. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're good.
okay.
It was a longer setup because it was a combo game. So you're good, Charity?
Yes, I'm good. I thought we were on number 2. So yes, I'm good.
Okay, sounds good. Do you want to share what you got for number 1 then? And kind of how you got there?
Yes, I'll share how I got there. All right, do you want me to go ahead and share now or?
Yeah,
do
go
you
ahead.
want-
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so what I typically do for these, which could be an accurate matching or which could be an accurate, I guess, board or whatever, I just kind of grab a rule. So I went to answer choice A. So I looked at that first segment, and I realized that international was first. Yeah. International was first, national sports. And I know that within my rules that national has to be the longest. That I came before that end, so I knew that was not acceptable. So I eliminated that. B had national first, then international, then sports. Sports being the shortest, that was good. National being first, that was good. I kind of, I guess in a way, being before W, that looked good to me. I had weather and traffic together, which means I had a local. I had 2 locals within that second segment. You know, you have to have at least one in each. So B looked the best, but of course, well, you know, in these answers, you can go ahead and select the actual answer. So I selected B, but going on to why the other ones were wrong. Answer choice C, I looked at that national, international weather. Hold on, let me see. Sports was, sports is always the shortest, so sports cannot be the first within that second segment. So I eliminated that one. Because of that violated the rule. The first segment, the national weather, international for answer choice D. Let me see. I had to have I before W. So I eliminated answer choice D because of that. Answer choice E, traffic, weather, sports. That leaves us with a violation of a local, at least one local being in each segment. So that's why I eliminated answer choice E. So B.
Okay. Yeah, that's the correct answer. I would caution you with the way you went about it. I'd say, because you kind of went to you went to the answer choices, then the rules. I would say go to each rule and bring it to answer choice.
Yeah, that's what I did, but I was just explaining.
Fair. So yeah, so I would go to rule 1 and say, okay, the important rules start at rule 3, honestly, if that makes sense. So I'll go to rule 1 and see, I'll go to rule 3 and see that, okay, 3 eliminates E because each segment could, so I'd go through each, so I'd say, so that rule 3 says each segment contains at least one report of local interest, right? So I'd go through every answer choice real quickly. I'd scan and say, okay, I need sports traffic. I can't have sports traffic and weather in that first segment because then it leaves it national and international. That's how that rule works. So then I cross off E, right? I'd see nothing else that violates that. So cross off E. Then I'd go to rule 4 and say, okay, rule 4 says the national report is always the longest of the 5 reports. So here I'm gonna try to find national in the farthest left on both segments. So for like a Charity said, A eliminates 4 eliminates A because international's first. And other ones all have national first. So we eliminate A with rule 4. Then we go to rule 5 and see sports is always shortest. We then eliminate C because sports is first in this regard. So eliminate C. And we go to 6 where I before W. And we see in C, W is before I in the first segment. So we can eliminate C, or we eliminate D. And B is our correct answer. Do we see how we got there for everybody? Are there any questions? James, how's it going?
It's not going. Still
Okay.
lost, but I think it's because I'm still new to the setup process.
For sure. I think it'll be good for you to kind of like almost hear us talk about it, like kind of hear other people explain it too. That way there's multiple different angles and you can kind of get used to the format instead of focusing on accuracy right now.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And does that sound good to you?
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's totally fine.
All right, cool. So let's go. So just a tip, I guess, James and whoever has played in my lessons before. What I like to do when I set these games up. So this is the question to answer one, right? This is the answer question one. So if we have this as question one, I would like to put a 1 to the left of this column. And instead of having to redraw all these columns over and over again, I would go here. And first off, I'd put the right answer here. That way I can use it as an example later on. I go, okay, here are my diagrams for section 2. For question 2. And I'll keep moving down on one page because you get enough sheets of paper to compensate for that. So I would keep moving down to really help that out. And that way you can easily glance up. And if it's something wrong, I would put an X next to it so I know it's something that doesn't work and not something that is, so I don't get confused. Because really, logic games are all about staying organized and staying efficient to make sure you finish those 23 questions in that 35 minutes. Okay, let's move to this next one. Number 2. So number 2 says, if the traffic report is the last report in the first segment, which one of the following must be true? So just a tip for these must be true questions. I would generally say, okay, which of the following, like I would put, if they gave me like traffic report is in the last report in the first segment, I would put that there. And from there, I would try to find out, try to place other things in that game board to make sure I know to know what has to be true in that case. So I'll give you all a couple minutes to this one and then we'll go from there. Charity, how's it going?
It's well. I got this one.
All right, let's give somebody else, see if they want to explain what interest they got and kind of how they got there. And want to take a
Okay.
step.
Okay, I can do number 2.
Go ahead.
So number 2 says that if T is the last report in the first segment, then which of the following must be true. So we know that if T is in the last report, meaning number 3, the first segment, that then involves our rule saying that S must be the shortest. And so then S is forced to be in 5. And then if we skim the answers, S has to be 5. A through D don't have to be true. If we could have drawn different diagrams, but that would have, if it was test day, might have drawn us some more time to do so. But we know that T, regardless, because T's place number 3, that S has to be 5. It has to be 5 because S is subject to the rules that they gave us, meaning that has to be the shortest. So S has to be 5 in the second segment. That's why it's E. Yeah,
that's the correct explanation and kind of how you get there. Because as soon as you see T equals 3, we know because rule 5, S has to be 3 or 5. And then as soon as I put that in there, I look over the answer choices and say, okay, are there any ones that say S has to be the last overall thing, depending on the segment? And so I see E is last one in segment 2, which is what 5 is. So I select that and I move on. I don't double check. I know it's kind of contrary to popular belief, but we logic games a lot of the times when you have a correct answer, it's better to move on than it is to keep going over and double checking your work. Any questions on this one? Okay. If there isn't any, let's go to question 3. If the national report is the first report in the second segment, then exactly how many of the reports are there, any of which could be the first report in the first segment? So for this one, I would kind of address it as far as national report, putting in the second segment and seeing what else falls into where. Give you all a couple minutes and we'll come back. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready. Sabrina, do you want to explain your answer and how you got there?
We were on 3, right?
Yes.
So basically I just put N on 4. I don't know why. It kind of didn't matter, just because it's basically, it's more on the rules. So if I know S, like I'm already knocking off S from there. I know that W can't be first because what is it, international or what, or interest?
International, yeah. Go, just say
Yeah,
I.
international is longer than the weather. And then I can't put national either, so it's just gonna be between international and what is it?
T. You should say T.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got B.
So why couldn't it be where this is the case? Then W is first over here.
Because the international is longer than W, so W cannot be first.
Well, they're not in the same segment though, so this could work, right?
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause it only applies if it's in the same segment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this could work, but the reason this one doesn't work in this case, so because we could have the reason it doesn't work in this case is because you have to have a local segment in each segment, and you have to have a local report in each segment. Sorry, there's a lot of like segment sections, but you have to have a local report in each segment. So this would force national, international in the same one, which is not local.
Oh,
not
right.
Because I has to be before W. So does that make sense? In all
Yeah, I
regards?
guess I kind of did. I don't know. I guess I kind of like overmind. Maybe I did that like subconsciously. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
fair.
got the right answer.
You did. No, you have to answer, so that's all that matters. But just so you kind of understand the game and understand how it works for future combo games. So yeah, so as Sabrina was saying, once you put national here, we then know that sports has to be 3 or 5, so sports can't be in this first spot. So we can eliminate national and sports. So that means we eliminate 4 and 5. So we eliminate D and E. And then we're looking at 1, 2, or 3. And well, we can try to put W there. So let's try we put W there. And now if we put W in 1, right? Then we would have to know that 5 would have to be I. And that doesn't work. So we eliminate that. So we know it has to be 2. And then I see that I and T really have no regulations against that, or no rules against them being first. So we can then put them there. Does that make sense to everybody? Are there any questions about this one?
Sorry, can you go for that last point one more time with the I and 5?
So yeah, I can't be in. So the thing I would do for this one is what I did is I put, okay, I know N is gonna be 4, that's what it kind of states in the question. And so I'm gonna try to put W at 1, right? If I put W at 1, then I know that I cannot be in this first segment. I cannot be 1, 2, or 3 then, because of rule 6 saying I has to be before W if they're in the same segment. So then I know that I would have to be in spot 5, but N and I cannot be in segment 2 together because of rule 3, which says each segment has to have at least one local, and both these are general.
Okay, thank you.
Is that clarify, or do you want me to go over it a different way?
No, that makes sense.
Okay, this comic game is a little weird. It's like, because it says I before W only in the same segment, so it's a little tricky because segments are run back to back, but it's also like I didn't want to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 in both segments 1 and 2 because there would be a lot of numbers and a lot of complicated. So I feel like 4 and 5 kind of made it easier, but that one rule really helps you show why I guess N and I cannot be in that rule 2 or be in the segment 2. Okay. Any other questions on number 3? Okay. Let's go to number 4. I will give you all a couple minutes. This is a global question. So what that means?
Quickly,
Yes, go ahead, James.
Michael, what's the answer for number 3? Because I gotta
Number
go
3?
back afterwards so I can get it myself. So since
Of course. The answer is B. And then boy.
he hasn't. Okay.
Do you want any explanation for that, or do you just want to do it later?
Yeah, I'll do it later.
That sounds
Okay.
good. And also, I don't know if I'm pretty sure you get the games published to you beforehand. So if you have it next time, maybe we'll go over it a little bit before. That way, it's a little easier if you're new to this. That makes sense.
Oh, sure. Sure. Today's my first day, so I have
No,
to
of
get-
course.
so-
Of course. If you have any questions at all, feel free to shout it out.
Yep, I will.
Sounds good. All right. Let's go to number 4, saying which one of the following cannot be true. So you said this is a global question. So what that means is it doesn't really give you any information to work with. It's just saying for these answer choices, which of the following could not be true no matter what. So I would couple this with our understanding of this game and go from there, if that makes sense. You can go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you feel like you're ready and have the correct answer.
So, Michael, to tackle this, wouldn't you have to plug in all the rules and eliminate which one would fit and wouldn't fit?
Exactly. So what I would do, so it depends on what your skill is. When I first started out, I would plug in every single one and say, okay, I would try like A, right? I would try to
Mhm.
put the international report, the first report, in the first segment, and I try to find a version of the game board quickly to where this works, if that makes sense. So where there's one where the international report is the first report in the first segment,
Got it.
and then from there I'd figure out which one it does not work. However, I think if you kind of like know this game a little bit, you can kind of see the options and say, okay, you could also go back and look at your previous game board and say, okay, I have a game board where international report is in the first report in the first segment. So then you just immediately eliminate that one too. So it's important to keep organized. That's why I say you're actually in a good place because you can learn to be really organized in the beginning, because that makes it 10 times easier as far as learning logic games go.
Got it.
So which one of the following cannot be true? Does anybody want to share their answer and how they got there? Rachel, do you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, sure thing. So with this one, I actually used information from the previous question because we found out that W couldn't go in 1. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's basically it.
Mm.
Because I was looking for let me be a bit more comprehensive.
You're good. You're good.
I went through all of the variables or all of the options and I saw, okay, which one could be like a restricted variable.
Mhm.
I mean, I really paid attention to I and W.
Mhm.
So that kind of goes along with D as well. And yeah, using previous information, like previous inferences from other questions helped.
Yeah, I agree. I think they kind of say they gave me like an alley-oop on this one almost, where I think, okay, well, I saw nationals in the second segment. I know nationally there has to be 1 or 4. And if we're putting weather report in the first segment, that means nationals be 4. So basically, the correct answer is D, because weather report can't be 1, no matter what happens. And do we see kind of why that? Like, does anybody else kind of see why that is? And this is also kind of a test, like a testament to why staying organized and learning why you chose the answer choice you did is more important than necessarily getting the right answer when you're practicing. Any questions to number 4? Okay, let's go to number 5. So this one is a fully determined one, which is one of the more challenging questions. So the order of the reports is fully determined if which one of the following is true. So here, for these kind of ones, I would normally just kind of way to approach it before you all give it your answer choices. I would say the way I would approach it is I would make sure I would kind of find the most restricted variables, find those ones out first, and then go from there. So yeah, give you all a couple minutes, and we'll go over this at like 48, 49 mark. Okay, how are we all feeling about this one? Go ahead and give us a thumbs up if you're ready. Okay. Does anybody want to share their answer and how they got there?
I could try to explain it.
Go ahead.
So I picked A, and the reason I crossed out D and E immediately because since there's only 2 general interests. Oh wait, no, wait. 2, which are the 2? The international and the national report, those are the two that really determine everything, because we know from the third rule, at least one, there's already one local.
Mhm.
So I don't know how I kind of just did this in my head. So I crossed out D and
Okay.
E because I was just trying to see, I'm like, okay, so if the international is in one, then I don't know. Honestly, I thought I was gonna be able to explain it better.
No,
I'm
You're
sorry.
good. So for these ones, I normally like to move through it quickly through each answer choice. And luckily in this case, A was the correct answer. So it made it easy for me. I just go through A through E. So the first thing I look at is, okay, the national report is the last report in the first segment. So I put I there. I know if I is there, S has to be in 5, right? And also if I is in 3, W can't be in 1, right? Segment 1. Because that means W technically before it, so W has to be 4th. So here we already have 3, 4, 5. I know national has to be 1st, so national had to be 1st, and T would have to be 2nd. Does that make sense to everybody? Kind of how A is correct? Do we have any questions on this one at all? Okay. If there's not any, let's move on to the next one. So this is the or go ahead, James, you have a question? Oh,
Yep. So what's the answer for number 5?
5 is A.
A. Okay.
All right. Let's move on to number 6. So number 6 reads, if the traffic report is the first report in the first segment, which one of the following could be true? So this is a could be true. It's a little different than the must be true question. So what this means is kind of saying which of these could actually happen. So your answer choices will be ones that are false no matter what and cannot happen. So what I would do is I'd put the traffic report in the first report in the first segment, fill in the surrounding things with stuff we know from rules, and see which kind of areas are already blocked off or variables that are already used, and then go from there. I'll give you all till about 53, and then we'll come back and answer this one. How are we all feeling about the last one?
I feel pretty good.
Do
Yeah.
you want to share then, Charity?
I do.
Go ahead, fire away.
All right. So for number 6, if the traffic report is the first report in the first segment, then which one of the following could be true? So what I knew with this, I put T first within the first segment, and I knew after that that N could only be first within the second segment. So of course, naturally, I looked for an answer choice that said N could be first in the second segment. But that was not true. But what I did do, I eliminated B because I knew N cannot be the second report because it's from longest to shortest. And as we remember, N has to be the longest variable, whichever segment that is in. I being the first report in the second segment, I didn't like that answer because that would kind of no. I being first reporting in the second segment, I didn't like that answer because once again, it kind of violated that whole N being the first variable within the second segment. And that would kind of imply that N is coming after something. C, the weather report is the second report in the first segment. No, because we know I has to somehow come before W, and we know T is first. We put that W there, then I will somehow be coming after it. So I eliminated
Yeah,
C
either
because of
way.
that. D, the weather report is the first within the second segment. No, because once again, we know N has to come first in the second segment. So that left me with answer choice E. The weather report being the last report within the second segment. I drew that on my diagram. There were no rules violated. So that's how I got to E.
Yeah, that's the correct way to do it. I would just caution you as far as once again, the I before W only applies if they're in the same segment. So obviously we couldn't put so like if we're putting it here, right, in the second line, we can't put we can't put I in 3, right? We try to put I in 5, but then it violates rule 3, not necessarily violating rule 6, right?
Okay, I see, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because that,
I feel like
you have to
that's
have
where-
a local in each, I got you.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Yeah.
this could work if there wasn't that one rule, and I don't want you guys to be confused about that distinction.
Got you.
So E is the correct answer, number 6. Any questions about this last one? Any questions on this game at all?
I have a question generally for like speeding up for logic games. Like I want to make sure that I'm able to complete the 4th game on my time sections. Right
Mhm.
now I'm able to do 3. So what is your advice on just working on timing? Like, do you think I should do drilling, specific questions to get faster or something?
I drilled games. I did. So I know it's an average of 8 minutes and 45 seconds, right? That's kind of the way you shoot for. I shot for 8 minutes on every game. And once I got down to 8 minutes in every game, like, so I'll do one full game at a time. I do 4 to 8 games a day. So I do about an hour of just straight 8-minute game, 8-minute game. Not necessarily, because some games are harder than others. But if I can get those hard games done in 8 minutes, then the other ones I get done in 6 minutes. So it's one of those things where I would drill I wouldn't drill necessarily specific questions. I drill whole like game sets, if that makes sense. And then
Not necessarily like a whole section, but a type of game.
yeah, just one game. So actually, I really liked LSAT Unplugged system as far as like going through like, okay, I'm just doing the linear games. Then I would do the linear and the combo games. Like all those things kind of working up to that understanding. And once you have that understanding, games will come way faster. And so really to work on timing, I recommend being as organized as possible. And I really like the column method. I don't know if you've done that previously. Highly recommend it.
Which method was that?
So the method that a lot of people choose to do is like for these ordering games, they'll do the method I do is what I call the column method. They'll do like a slot method where this is slot 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like that. Is that how you've seen
Right.
ordering games before, Rachel?
Yeah, that's usually the way I do it, but I like this column method as well. I know of both, but I
Okay.
usually do the one that you just did up there.
Okay, I just like something to get lost and everything. And like I was saying earlier, did you kind of see how I'd say, okay, this is question 1, this is question 1, this is question 2. That way I have all these games all right in front of me, and bam, there. You know, I can just kind of like glance up and say, okay, eliminate 2 of those. But honestly, for me, the way I got faster was just repetition of whole, like, not whole sections, but just one whole game stimulus. Like this whole like game 1 of a certain section. And I just start doing the harder ones and try to do them in under 8 minutes.
Okay, so drilling the same types of questions.
Well, I would just kind of like what we did today, right? Just this whole game set of 1 through 6. Not necessarily the same types, maybe the same types of games, not the same types of questions, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense.
So do linear games, then start doing grouping games, and do combo games, and then throw them all together and just keep drilling them all. And that way, make sure you do the basic ones first in 8 minutes, and then make sure you get the challenging games further on.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions on today? And then Sabrina, do you have that game you have?
Yeah, it's practice test 34, game 1.
Do 1 minute. We might go a little over if it's okay. Let me see if I find it quickly. If not, let me see. 34. Let's see. Give me 1 second. You said game 1. Sorry, I just. And everybody else, you can leave unless you want to see this quick setup. Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate it. And then there's also a study group with Clint after this, where James, if you have more questions, you can kind of ask questions there.
Oh, I can stay on?
There should be a study group with Clint afterwards, correct me, so.
Yeah, I didn't know that I could stay on after my own hour.
I'm pretty sure I'd ask Michelle, but
So
Yeah.
my question is just to figure out how to set up the games, like
Yeah,
how to
so-
set up diagrams, which setup goes with which type of question. Like there's grouping, there's other types of
Yeah.
methodologies.
So Clint will help you with that real quick afterwards. Cause
Mm.
I'm getting off, but somebody else will be on if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I'm gonna help Sabrina with her game setup real quick.
Okay, no problem. So how do I get on the other one? Just stay on, or
So you stay on here and it'll
Alright.
be on in 1 minute.
all right? Thank you very
Uh,
much.
No problem. All right, Sabrina. So this one is about Jill, Kurt, Larissa, Manny, and Olga.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a circular game. Oh, okay. I see why.
Yeah, I did not. I was just like confused on the whole setup and yeah.
Sorry, which practice test is this?
This is 34 game.
34, game 1.
Okay.
If to be completely honest with you, this is gonna be one where you're not gonna see one like this anymore. They've kind of done away with these circular games. However, as far of 9 parallel aisles, dark 51 from one to okay, so I guess it's not necessarily circular game. Okay, so basically, we know. So let's go through the setup real quick. I'm just gonna do that because I have to go here shortly, but give me. I should have time to do this. So you're gonna do this typical 1 through 9 thing, right?
Yeah.
So you see that on my screen right now, right? I would set it up like a normal ordering game, right? 1 through 9. Then from here, you know that Olga stocks only one aisle, right?
Yeah.
So you're only gonna have one O game piece. And because you have 9 aisles with 5 people, then everybody else is gonna stock 2 aisles, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I would put up here, I'd have 2 J's, right? You know, we'd normally put our game pieces up here. You'd have 2 J's and 2 of everything else, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you have that, it's gonna be a giant ordering game. So if you know Olga stocks definitely 1 aisle, you know they're not gonna stock 2. You know Kurt stocks aisle 2, so you can put aisle K in aisle 2. sorry about that. But so we know Manny does not stock aisle 1, so you put the little M and cross out aisle 1. You know Jill does not stock consecutive aisles, so I would put JJ cross the line through that. Kurt stocks the only aisle between the 2 aisles Manny stocks. So this gives you a huge information, right? So this for rule 4, it'd be MKM. So you know that Kurt Manny has to be a block somewhere in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So far I've written the rules right on my previous one.
Okay. So exactly one of Larissa's aisles is an end aisle, so either 1 or 9, right? But not both. Does that make sense?
Wait, the L was at 1 or 9?
Yeah, so exactly one of Larissa's aisles is an end aisle. The end aisles are 1 and 9.
Okay. I guess for that rule I just put 9.
Okay, no, it's 1 or 9. But not both. Exactly 1. That's the
Okay.
key part there. And Olga's aisle, because Olga only has 1, is numbered higher than either of Kurt's aisles and lower than at least one of Larissa's.
So
So
K-O-L kind of.
I would say KK, O, L, but there could also be an L on the other side. Does that make sense? But you can K
Okay.
because both of Kurt's are before O, right?
Yeah.
So that means both of M's are before O as well, right?
Oh yeah. Okay.
So does that make sense?
Yes.
So actually, let me does that we can also work this more next week, but does that kind of help you there.
No, yeah, it really does. There is some stuff I did not write. Like
Okay.
starting with like the whole double, like JJ and KK. I didn't even.
Yeah, I think that kind of helps you find out the game. But
Yeah.
well, I'll pass it over to Clint. Sorry for taking a few more minutes. So
Thank you.
no problem. Have a good one, everybody. Hope to see you all next week.